Hey guys, it's here bringing you another video and welcome to another high rating spectate. Today we are watching Sylas for the very specific question of should you and me be playing Sylas. Now the reason why I'm making this video and why Sylas, you know, I can hear people asking potentially, is some of you may have noticed. If you haven't, I'll be surprised. I've been playing Kassadin a bit this season, and the partial reason because of that is I do ultimately want to try and hit a higher rating than I've ever had before. I hit 142 LP Master last year. I want to try and do it, and it genuinely, it's going to sound bad what I'm about to say, it's harder to climb if you're not actually embracing some of the stronger champions in the game. You know, my Nivea is great, and we did very well with the Nivea last year. But how many performances have I already had on Kassadin where I take over the game versus what I had on the Nivea last year? I've already had probably 3 to 4 insane carry games on Kassadin, where on a Nivea, it's a lot harder to do that. Now, bringing up why Sylas is here, Sylas I would put in the same vein as Kassadin. Some people may disagree with me, but I actually think Sylas is somewhat easier to play than Kassadin, mainly due to not mechanically easier, like I think they're pretty much similar, but the incredible healing that Sylas has got. Kassadin doesn't have that, where Sylas does. Apart from that, they're pretty damn similar. You've got to obviously try to hit your E chain on Sylas, but that's the main thing. Obviously, the major decision making you've got on Sylas isn't always of like, when do I go in, because eventually you do crazy healing and all that stuff. It's what ultimate in the given situation is best to use. Which one can you steal and then ultimately use against the enemy team effectively? That is kind of one of the biggest things to Sylas, that I think some Sylases obviously do very well, and a lot of Sylases or some Sylases could work on that especially. So another big reason of like why I'm considering myself to play Sylas is because I'm embracing more what I would call broken champions like Kassadin, but with champions that I still fundamentally enjoy their play style. And I will say that I think Kassadin suits my play style. I think he's a battle scaling mage that you know, it's not about crazy roaming, it's about doing well in your lane and scaling. I think Sylas is pretty much the same for mid lane. Obviously we're watching jungle at the moment, because some people are going, does that mean you're going to pick up Kiana and Katarina and stuff? No, I literally do not enjoy the roam playstyle. So it just there's no point for me to pick up those champions. I just won't enjoy it. And for those champions to be successful, I truly do believe to make them good, you have to really roam. But another really big thing with Sylas that I actually quite like the idea of is he's a flex pick at the moment. I don't know if that's always going to last, but you can play obviously his primary role. Well, actually his primary role now might be jungle, but you know, you can definitely jungle and mid lane Sylas. Both of them are very effective, both of them are strong, and that's always a nice thing. Like, you know, when people say to me, you know, if you are going to main something, if you are going to one trick, is there any recommendation that I would have? Ultimately, maining or one tricking should be a personal decision. But if I had to give any advice about it, I would never, ever one trick or main, like specifically one thing, something that only plays one role. Because then you are really putting yourself into a box. You're putting yourself into a box being a one trick anyway, but if your one trick can only play mid, or only play top, or only play AD carry, whatever, you are really limiting yourself. Because, you know, you might be, if you pick a less popular one trick, you might be able to get your champion every game. It's not banned, it's not picked, but you're not guaranteed to get your role every game. You know, not nowadays in League. So it's where, like, Sylas, you literally could queue mid-jungle most games, and most games you will probably get the pick. Nice gank by Sylas using the Yone, obviously. And that's kind of one of the crazy things I would say as a jungler. Yone is one of the best things to gank for, because he can start his engage for so far away, and half the time when a Yone is going for his E, as a opponent to Yone, you're not always thinking, oh, you know, the jungler's coming, he's just doing a far engage to get a bit of poke on me, and that's it. But then the jungler shows up, you're like, oh snap, oh god. It's surprising. We'll say obviously comps are a little bit peculiar this game, but that is, I don't know, a growing trend, I would say right now. Oh, is he actually going to? Oh, he's not. Wow. Why didn't he do that? I guess maybe, like, he could have damaged Cassio there as she's coming back into lane and she would have been a bit screwed. I guess they want the kill. Like, that must be the only reason. So that shows a lot of restraint by the Sylas to go for the not the kill. Oh, and it misses as he's actually dead here. That damage, what the hell? That's another reason, like, you know, why play something like Sylas? Their damage is insane. Like, what? That was nuts. Like, what? Granted, I presume that Cassio has not got magic resist in her runes. She's probably got armor because she knew she was against a Yone. But still, again, there are just some champions. Feel free to say what ones you believe there are in League, but there's a bunch that I truly believe just do more than other champs. Sylas is definitely in that category. Kassadin is in that category. You know, that there are just champions that are just bonkers. And if you don't play those champions, weirdly, again, I've got respect for those people because their climb is actively harder. But, like, you know, I wouldn't say playing a Sylas or a Kassadin, you're not making it as easy as, like, duo queuing or something. But you are, it's a lot easier than playing something like even a Nivea. You know, a Nivea, I would say, is a very hard champion to absolutely solo carry with. But I have personally solo carried games this year with Kassadin. And I have seen Sylas's solo carry games. There are, you know, Yone can solo carry games. There are some champions in the game. Viego can solo carry you. There are stronger champions for doing that. And ultimately, if you really want to climb the ranks of League of Legends, sometimes if your playstyle and your skill allows, playing one of those champions that really can solo carry is the best thing to do. It truly is, because you can solo carry. It's pretty much that simple. So as for the jungling itself, you know, we've not seen anything what I would call special or insane. The clear was an interesting clear, wouldn't what I would call like the most optimal. The one thing I did notice, which was interesting to me, because Sylas has got actually quite expensive mana costs for being a jungler, because, you know, technically he's not a jungler, he's technically a mid laner. If you notice when he did his clear, he started red, then went over here, then did here, then I think did wolves, then did gromp, then did blue last. He most likely did blue last, so he actually had blue buff out in play. Because if you do blue buff, then gromp, you're technically wasting time with the blue buff for actually farming camps. Having blue buff last, it enables you to have that mana regen and get back up to full mana when you're actively looking for potentially aggression time. So that is my only guess of why the clear was the way it was. Obviously, that's worth kind of taking into account. But yeah, going on to the comps, both are a little bit weird. I would say we're in a meta, or solo queue at least, is in a pretty, like, fluid state that you can practically play most things and you're not actually that punished. Maokai Ultimate, I will say, is one of the best ultis for a Sylas to steal. It is a very powerful ulti, and obviously with Sylas's AP ratios and everything for the ult, it does a lot of damage. So, but yeah, seeing Talon in mid lane, I will say, is a little bit peculiar. Again, Tristana is also a bit weird to see in mid lane too. So mid lane matchup this game is just odd, especially the rating that we're watching of specifically the Sylas's Grandmaster. So that is a very weird lane. Cassio top is a bit weird, but it's typically used as a counter pick to try and be it's a bit easier against bruiser melee champions. But Yone obviously is a bit different, and obviously Sylas has given attention to top lane to try and get the Yone snowballing. And then bot lane, Ashe support is still there, which again, Ashe support has kind of fallen off, but you've got Ashe support in this game, and then you have Zoe support. So really odd game for some picks here. And this is one of the benefits, I would say, of like Cassio isn't really a top laner. She's used as a kind of slightly cheesy counter pick to bruisers to try and poke them down from range, stop their mobility with W, and then when they go for an all-in, she has an ultimate just to stop them. But it's where something like a Yone is a little bit different. You know, Yone is incredibly strong, and what Sylas has done, which I like, and is something that I try to do when I'm a jungler, is he has prioritized something that is strong to try and snowball. Like, you could have prioritized bot lane and helped, but a Jhin isn't a very good solo carry or hyper carry. Ashe support is just going to do arrows and poke. That's about it. So realistically, the best lane for Sylas to go to was top. One, it helps against the cheese Cassio a bit more than any other lane. Like, Tristana, in theory, could just survive against a Talon if she's smart. Bot lane can just survive against a Caitlyn Zoe, where Yone would actively be getting harassed against a Cassiopeia. So it's good decisions. And then you have something that can ultimately snowball. You know, Tristana mid, it's something that I personally wouldn't really give a lot of time to gank. I just don't think the pick is very good. And ultimately, Tristana mid, if it goes right, you're not really relying on ganks. She is supposed to be kind of that all-in level 2 with Ignite kind of pick, that if it goes well, it can go really well, and if it doesn't go well, it goes really bad. Because again, my whole philosophy that I've always spoken about, 3 people in mid with Shelly, Sylas is on the way though, AD carries do not belong in mid. Only one of them you could say does, and that is, misses is Akshan, because he's designed to be there and his resistances kind of show that. A typical actual AD carry like a Tristana or something, they are really not balanced to be solo lane. Then they're really not balanced to be in mid lane, where most assassins or mages ultimately are designed to kill AD carries. It's always really weirded me out when somebody takes a traditional AD carry mid, because it's just really not what they're designed to do. It works if they get an early kill or two and they can kind of snowball off that, but if it doesn't, and what I think we've seen here is Maokai on the enemy team actually ganked mid early once, and they got a kill, and obviously then Talon got a little bit of an early lead, a little bit of a power spike early, and then he killed Tristana himself in an all-in in a 1v1. It's risky, that's what I would say. So obviously, you know, if you're looking at blue team comp, there's not a snowball game so far. You know, yes, they are a bit ahead in gold, mainly because of top lane. Like, look how big that difference is at the moment. But the rest of the map is not going too well. Like, mid lane's not going that well. Farm's okay because of the range difference. Yone's continuing the snowball, and bot lane's relatively going even. So right now, I would say what Sylas' decision to go where he did has worked. He's looking for a dragon steal here. Seeing if we can do anything. Would be good if a steal could happen. No vision though, so he's going to have to guess. Ash arrow comes down. All in does happen. Can Sylas just go for it? Talon. Oh, he's going for some kills. It does have to get away. Unfortunately, dragon is done. Heal comes through the Ash, which was not needed. Jhin obviously does get a kill with his ulti. Nice W. I don't know what the hell's happened. My full screen has gone away. Talon goes for a weird another engage and ends up dead. But yeah, dragon taken by the enemy team. But Sylas ultimately does end up with another kill, which is good. Obviously, Tristana died again. I just don't think it's probably going to be this Tristan's game. It just, as I said earlier, like if it doesn't go well in lane phase, you are going to struggle. The only good thing, I guess, or something like Tristana, she does scale well. So if she does get a few items, she'll just become a typical AD carry that has okay late game scaling. But still, she'll be vulnerable to something like a Talon, because again, Talon is ultimately designed to kill squishy AD carries. Would be interesting to see what obviously item Triss decides to go for. Shield bow, well, she wants to probably go Kraken Slayer, let's be honest, but shield bow might be the smarter thing to go this specific game. But Jhin just got his first kill, which isn't bad, like that's good. And then when you have, you know, it's the mentality that I would also kind of say to you guys, is if you're playing something like a Jhin or something, or even an Ashe, it's really where you just don't risk the game and be smart about the overall picture of the game when you have a Yone that is 4-0 and a Sylas that's 3-1. And, you know, this is kind of a champion-specific thing. Like, I'm not just saying, like, if you have... It sounds... What am I going to say? If you have a Lee Sin in your jungle that's 3-1... you'll be happy about it, but you can't fully relax because you know he's not the late game scaling champion like a Sylas is. Meanwhile, Cassio getting ulted by Yone, who kind of looked to ignore Cassio ult, which was a bit weird. So that's nice. Cassio dead again. She did, by the way, go Riley first, which again is a counter to a melee champion. It's just Yone is just not a typical melee champion. You can see that the Talon himself is trying to roam. Walk straight into the Trist, who... That wasn't very good. But yeah, the Talon is trying to roam because clearly top lane is going very badly. And as a Talon, he is actually really a roaming champion himself. Maybe he should have been roaming up to top lane a bit more. But again, he's not the jungler, so it's not really his job. If he dies there, that would be very good. Does end up getting away, but Trist E is on him. Don't think he dies. Maokai's damage just isn't big enough yet. I actually think keep saying Talon. I think Sylas could have actually continued that fight on Maokai. Yes, he got low. Talon was too low to re-engage. I guess the enemy bot lane could have been about, but Maokai did his damage. He did his ult. He doesn't have a bush nearby to get an empowered E, and Sylas would have had W back up, and he would have been fine. Tristana then overstays and ends up dead again. 0-4 Tristana. Again, not... I obviously don't know the player. I don't know why they're playing Tristana mid. I don't know if that's what they actually play, or are they an AD carry player that got autofill mid? I've got no idea. Meanwhile, Jhin gets another kill, but then the Talon is now starting to roam. So this is how a Talon can start making a bigger impact, is he is annihilated mid lane, and now he can start roaming and try to take over the map. It's the same premise of what, again, a Katarina or a Kiana or something like that does as well. So he does have Caitlyn ult to steal, does Smite, which procs Dark Harvest into Caitlyn ult. Very nice. That was just really good play. One thing I actually believe myself as a jungler I need to do more, and it's a really basic thing, is use my Smite on enemy champions more. It's pretty good. It's not actually that bad. Meanwhile, Cass dies again. The snowball is too great now. You know, he is level 12. I don't know what level Cass is. I would have to guess around level 10. He's got an item and a half, and Cass has just got one over item. So yeah, like it's this right now, I would say, you know, yeah, Sylas seems fine as a jungler, but ultimately so far this just seems a real big sale to ganking early for something like a Yone. Ashe really mispositions there and gets herself killed. So we're having the two picks that arguably are the worst, the Ashe support and Tristana, are doing the worst, and that isn't really surprising. Tristana ends up dead again, and I would say it is frustrating. We've all been in these, I imagine, circumstances that you're fed on a Yone top lane, or you're just fed in top lane, or you're really strong in jungle, and it really does feel that some of your teammates just refuse just to be okay. Like, calm down, you don't need to do anything risky. The Tristana is still playing risky. She also has built, you could say, wrong. She's ultimately built for the most damage that she can deal, which is Kraken Slayer. But when she's already not doing very well, maybe a more survival-orientated build is a smarter thing to do. She's not done that. And then the Ashe is 0-3 as well. It just makes you kind of think sometimes of like, really? You know, just do the thing that makes the game easier to win, first and foremost. And a lot of players just simply don't do that. And, yeah. Right, so Dragon being done, so obviously enemy team has just backed away, which is quite funny, but that is because I believe Yone has shown up. Cass is just not interested. She doesn't have TP. She's gone top lane. Again, partial tilt, I imagine, is definitely going to be starting to emerge from the Cassiopeia. And again, Talon himself, not an amazing team fighter. You know, most assassins aren't. Hilariously, the two assassins that I've actually spoken about the most in this game so far, Kiana and Tristana, are actually pretty good team fighters. That's the funny thing, and that's what I think does separate those two a little bit. Look at that damage! Holy moly, dude! And that's the thing with Sylas. Like, he's strong this game, but he just annihilated that Zoe. That's what I would say. I would honestly say my jungle pool is missing something like a Sylas. Like, hell, even my mid lane pool is missing something like a Sylas, because there's not many things like Sylas. Oh, really nice turn. Again, the Tristana again is having an awful game, so she just yeets into a Cassio without turning, so she dies again, where the Sylas actually faced his back very quickly to dodge the miasma, I think it's called. Yeah, the Sylas is playing great, the Yone is playing great, and obviously those two synergized early to get the snowball started. So it's really good to see. I think the Jhin, by the way, is playing completely fine. Obviously, he's got a bit of a dud with the Ashe support, which obviously that's always going to make your lane and your game harder when your support is actively not playing great. And vice versa, by the way, if you're playing support and your AD... Oh, the base went off! Oh, poor Talon. He also used Ignite there. Feels bad, man. But yeah, if you're playing a support and your AD carry isn't very good, it instantly makes your game harder. Because those roles, historically and in theory, are kind of tied at the hip. They're supposed to be a package. And it's where, like I've always said, the modern play style of support roaming way too much, it does weird me out. Because they're not really playing their role. And sometimes it really shows. So yeah. Talon is in the area. Blue buff is being done. I think the Talon's looking for the Tristana. Yes, he is, but obviously he did waste Ignite. Jin ult coming through, Eing over. Talon ult both being stolen and used. Jin W, I don't know if he's in range. No, he's also walking away. I hope he doesn't take blue. He is actually taking blue. He probably shouldn't do that. Sylas continues and just annihilates the Talon. Maokai probably shouldn't actually be in that area. Trist will get that kill and blow the Zoe away as well. And now the game is starting just to be taken over more weirdly by a Sylas. The Yone is split pushing. So this is just the enemy team not being able to deal now with a Sylas. And this is what I've mentioned earlier. He is really ridiculously strong. Now, this is risky. Yes, you killed the jungler. Baron is an okay call, but Sylas himself doesn't have smite. Here we go. Is there any potential steal incoming? Nearly done. What they're doing smart is they're actually just engaging on the enemy bot lane, not giving them a chance to go for it. And that sometimes is kind of free kills because the enemy would be so fixated on the Baron, they're then less kind of like, oh god, I've just been jumped on by a Trist or a Yone. So Trist did die again, but she did get a kill, and Yone finishes off the Caitlyn. So I honestly think I might be playing a Sylas game soon. By the way, starting tomorrow is Unranked to Diamond. So hopefully you guys will enjoy that. I think the way that I'm doing it, and we'll have to have a bit of a discussion about it in the coming week, is I don't know if I should just kind of do blocks of like, right, for the next 3-4 days it's Unranked to Diamond, and then after the next 3-4 days it's back to the main account for 3-4 days, and kind of just, you know, every 3-4 days change which series it is. Or should I do like main account for the first video and Unranked to Diamond for the second video? I'm not really sure. Let me know if there's any feedback on that. But yeah, typically over the next couple days it's going to be Unranked to Diamond though for both videos. Because I actually don't have any main account stuff at the moment. I'm going to be recording on it tomorrow. But I would probably say, I'm not sure if I'll go on Sylas straight away on the main account, but what I might do is an Unranked to Diamond episode. Nice Ash Arrow. And goodbye. He dead. I honestly am a little bit weirded by the Jesus Christ, the Zoe support thing. You know, Zoe, the thing that weirds me about Zoe support is actually typically what I used to not like Lux about. And I would say Lux in her base kit has a lot better kit for being a support than Zoe does. Triss just actually killed the Talon. That's quite funny. And the reason why I'm saying that is Zoe basically offers nothing in actual support at all to her AD carry. Maokai mispositioning a bit there. And that's Ace, and that's probably Infernal Dragon again. So yeah, she doesn't really offer any actual support things to her fellow lane partner. And she really is, and well, I guess her buff has made it that she's less technically item savvy or dependent. But she is a mid lane mage that is quite item dependent. So when you're playing support, you're typically more item starved than any other role. So you don't have the luxury of you don't have the luxury a lot of the time of being okay without items if you're a big mage like Zoe is. I will say, again, her recent buff, wow. A recent buff, again, for those that don't know, they did it recently when she hits a sleep, her E on something, they have less magic resist. Their magic resist by percentage has gone down, and the enemy team has surrendered. So yeah, their magic resist goes down actual percentage wise, which obviously isn't an item. You don't need gold to do that. That's just your champion now. So that is good, I technically would say, for Zoe support. But I still don't think the rest of the champion fits the role at all. You also need to kill minions to get, I think she needs the last hit on a minion for the balloon to get her W summon a spell or item, whatever drops from a minion. So you'd also actively have to be having to take farm. So it's a bit odd. I just don't see it personally. But yeah, Sylas, again, nearly full Magi stacks, 3 items complete. I think Zhonya's would have been the next item. And you guys saw the damage. You even saw the damage from the early game. It is really high. And that is one of the key things that I think what I would call the insane champs is all of them practically are late game, or they scale well, but their damage in the early game is also surprising. I think that is kind of one of the big key things. Even Kassadin, his damage isn't terrible once you hit like level 7-ish. It's not bad. And everybody in their mind goes, oh, you have to get level 16. You don't. A lot of the games I've casted in recently, some of them I've got to level 16, some of them I haven't, and I've still done well. Like, I think some people just have a bit of a mental block on some champs going, oh, it's late game. These really strong champions aren't pure late game anymore. They're just not. But anyway, that is going to be it. I think I'll have to play a Sylas game in my next Unranked to Diamond play session. Just to mention how I think it's going to work as well is I typically stream ranked League of Legends 4 days a week. So I stream 5 days a week. So I stream Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then one of the weekend days I stream and the other one I have it off. I always have Wednesdays off as well. What I think I'm going to do is main account streams Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. And then the Unranked to Diamond will be on Thursday. And then we do kind of casual things on the weekend. Does that mean I'm only going to be playing Unranked to Diamond once a week? In theory, if my main account is going really well, then yes, there'll be one dedicated recording session of Unranked to Diamond. So your majority are going to be getting main account stuff, and then the Unranked to Diamond is just kind of sprinkled over the top. But if I'm having a bad day on the main account, let's say I've played 3 games, I've lost all 3, typically what I've had to do recently is either keep going and I'm in not a very good mood and I feel like I'm not playing very well, but I have to keep going because obviously I want to keep streaming, or I have to end stream with nothing else to do. Now, if I have 3 bad games, I'll go on Unranked to Diamond. And obviously, because it's a bit of a different vibe, it will be a bit of a mental reset for me, and we can kind of just get into that transition, which is nice, just to be able to do something else other than main account all the time. And that's why I do actually think it's a really healthy thing to have the main account and a Smurf series, because it's nice. And because this Unranked to Diamond is actually a proper Unranked to Diamond, Smurf Q is gone. Unranked to Diamond over the last 1 to 2 years was actually incredibly stressful, not relaxing, because of Smurf Q. You'd be in silver, but it's actually diamond level games because Smurf Q. They've gotten rid of Smurf Q, so these games are a lot more casual, and I actually get to show you the differences of every single rank and how to kind of abuse the rank that you're in against the opponents and actually use their weaknesses to climb. And you guys can do that. I'm just showing it. But anyway, that's going to be it. If you guys are enjoying the content, please do throw a like on it, throw a comment, throw a subscribe. In the comment section, let me know what other champions you would kind of categorize as like the upper tier of champions. Which would you deem higher tier, like Kassadin, Sylas, Viego, Yone? What would you put in that category that maybe I should consider playing? We'll see. Anyway, that's going to be it. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.
Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know